Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I wanted to talk about distinguishing yourself as a residency candidate and really what it is to get to the top of the pile, at least avoid that first pile where you don't get an interview, is to distinguish yourself. And there are two primary ways to do that. And what I'm going to do is kind of give you a step-by-step of how you do it and then kind of how you put it in writing, which is with the letter of intent. So again, I do the letter of intent makeovers. I work with students, and something that I just couldn't get across the right way was I said that I would help someone with one letter and then help them with a template. And what I was really saying was, okay, I'll help you with the first one, and then I'll help you with another one, kind of showing you how to move from the first one you did and not wasting your time and starting all over again. So I'm just going to write that I'm helping with two letters of intent. So if you want to do ambulatory care and hospital, that's fine. I'll help you with two different ones. Or if you want me to help you with an ambulatory care and then apply to another ambulatory care, I can show you the changes that you need to make as you go through. And that's what I want to talk about in this video is when I'm getting the intake, that is, I'm getting the letter from the person, there's two pieces to it. And one is somewhat generic, the one that you can use over and over again. And that's the stuff about you. That doesn't change as much. But what does change is what you know about them. And the way to distinguish yourself, and I'll separate this into two very distinct ways, and we can just talk about how someone would have a conversation and they would become very memorable. So imagine if you talk to someone, and let me show you the five kind of pillars that you need, and you talk to someone and you're in one of these either smaller webinars which are going on right now, or you're actually at ASHP Showcase, and you're trying to get across five things: that you are competent clinically, it is a job after all, a clinical position in residency, that you provide community service of some extent or another, that you are a leader, and that you have done research and understand the research project, and that you also are involved with teaching. Okay? And when I do the intake, what I want is to know, okay, well, what have you done clinically? What have you done community service and your pharmacy school experience as a leader? And what research have you done to what level? And then what teaching have you done? And then we kind of pick three of those really to say, okay, well, these three are not only probably your best, but also the best match to them. But then the piece that a lot of people miss in distinguishing themselves is to then look up those parts and aspects of the people that they're going to work with. And when I mean work with, I mean, have you looked at their profile and said, okay, well, clinically, what are some of these residents doing? And what are they really interested in? And a lot of times you're going to see what PGY2 they're hoping to work in later in their career. The second part is you're looking at their service to the community, and that might not be quite as apparent, but residents have a lot of duties, and one of the most, I guess, not transparent, but one of the most obvious ones is the chief resident, that is providing leadership to the residents and being kind of the conduit. So if there's an issue with the residents, then they go to the chief resident goes to the RPD goes to chief resident, and so forth. When you look at leadership, it's not just chief resident, but also what projects are you going to lead in residency? What aspects of the residency are you going to take control over? We often think that it's kind of a job where you just go each day and you do some stuff and you help some people and you go home. And it's not that at all. It's really, there's a lot of times where you're going to have to kind of take control of some project or some responsibility, and that's kind of where the leadership comes in, that you are someone that gets things done. And what you want to do is find out, well, what did you guys do? What were your roles and how did you fit in? The research project comes so fast. It really does. Like you have to have your abstract done in the first couple months. And so you're figuring out a project and all of that. And the one big thing that people love to talk about is their project because it is so central to where they are right now. When you are talking to these people in October, November, they're hitting deadlines to submit that abstract, and they don't have a lot of the math done, the statistics done, even the data collection done. But what they do have is an idea of what they're going to do, and much more important is the why. Why did they pick that project? It might have been assigned, which is a little less exciting, but it may not have been. It may have been something that's deeply important to them, especially if maybe they've had cancer in their family in the past. Maybe they lost someone to smoking. Maybe they had cardiac issues in their past. Whatever it is, generally the research project says a lot about a person. And when you're asking someone about something, that's one of the things that you definitely want to do that. And a lot of times you're going to see before you go into interviews what projects they're doing, and it absolutely makes sense to look at those. And then what teaching, this kind of depends. Some of the residencies are going to be a ton of teaching with pharmacy schools and things like that. But you would be surprised if a lot of the residents are kind of honest about it, that it is tremendously time consuming. And they are really finding the hard way that so much of teaching has little to do with being in front of the classroom. It's preparing to teach, and it takes so much time to get those things ready. And as someone who's been doing it for over a decade, I kind of have my lectures. I know what I want to talk about. Sometimes I'll walk in and, you know, I know exactly what they're going to run into, and it's just very relatively easy now. But man, that when you've got all those other responsibilities, it's a lot of work, and really showing your empathy is really what you want to do there. So the two ways that you distinguish yourself: one, you flex your muscles and how you've done things clinically, and what clinical APPEs you've done, what you've done to serve your community, how you've led as president, vice president, whatever, what research have you done, and then how you've been involved in teaching. But how you really distinguish yourself, how you really become memorable, and this is just as if you meet someone else, is you're asking about their clinical needs or clinical interests, and you're valuing their service to the community and what leadership roles they took and what their project is on and how they are helping others and how much time it takes. And when you show empathy to the residents, you are in fact showing the empathy that you would show to the patients that they serve. And it may sound strange that as an applicant, you are providing empathy and support to the residents that you are hoping to be. But while many romanticize this residency thing, it's a lot of work. It really is. And I get that they say, okay, well, it's 2 to 3 years of clinical knowledge that you would get over those years. Well, it also feels like doing 3 years in a row. And if you've ever had an 18 or 21 credit semester, that's what it feels like. So please do, reach out to me if you want to work with me with the letters of intent. We'll get that first letter done, and then we'll get that second letter and kind of show you the path. I can do all of them. For some people, they like to have me do all of their letters for them. But really, if I can get you through those first two, you can see what the first one looks like, and then how to make the changes without reinventing the wheel on the second one, while still being faithful to having a unique letter that shows that, hey, I'm worth this $50,000, $60,000 that I'm going to be making, and I've put the time into it and not just kind of highlighted a couple things and changed it. All right, well, want to get a hold of me, residency.teachable.com, TonyThePharmacist@gmail.com.